Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the first virtual session on the 412 Food Rescue Hero Conference here in Pittsburgh. I'd like to welcome everyone that's here in the audience. We have a massive crowd that is watching us online, so we appreciate all of you that are doing that. We hope that this session is very inspiring to you. I'm Steve Dietz. I'm with do development for Food Donation Connection. We work with every one of you in the audience that's here now and a lot of you that are on virtually. Our company coordinates food donation programs nationally. We work with lots of large donors, small donors, and we pair those donors with groups just like you, and we do a lot of that with you. So we appreciate that, and we appreciate your loyalty to us and to your commitment to helping feed those people in need. We want this session to be informative, inspiring, motivating, because you are looking for food every day. And I think that our panel is going to help answer a few questions or give some insider guidance that may make you even more successful than you are now. So I'd like to introduce the panel. We have David from Gordon Food Service, We have Ryan from EG America, and we have CJ from Get Go convenience store chain here locally, which most of you all know. I'd like to ask each of them first, tell me a little about your company, what kind of concept you are, how many locations you have, and just a little bit about what you do.
Yeah, thanks. David Fredericks. I'm the Director of Warehouse for Gordon Food Service, our Imperial Distribution Center, which is just outside of Pittsburgh in the little tiny town of Imperial. We are one of 25 distribution centers across the East Coast of the United States and then fully across Canada, but we're a food distributor. So we send food, anywhere from independent food companies to hospitals, schools, education, healthcare. We run the gambit of food distribution. So anywhere you go to get food, that's usually our market that we utilize.
Hey, David, you have an interesting way of how you became associated with 412 Food Rescue. Would you mind repeating that?
Yeah, no, this is exciting.
I'm hope.
Yeah, this is exciting. I mean, this has been a fun journey for me along the way, because when we first opened our facility up, we hadn't just barely started shipping out products, and we had a visitor that came popping in to meet with us, and the gentleman, kind of shared his story that, hey, we're working on this app program, and we're working on this startup, this 412 Food Rescue Group that looks to take your food and get it out to the public, right? And so really the question was, what do you need from us? Right? And conversely, what do you need? What do we need from you? And man, we hit the ground running. It started out with one day, and it's just continuing to grow and grow and grow. So it's been exciting for me to be a part of this journey from really, I wouldn't say the get-go, because I wasn't the mastermind behind 412 Food Rescue, but it was great knowing that we were their first place to come pick up and get stuff from. So this has been real exciting for me, and I'm just excited to be here to talk through that.
Great, thank you. Yep. Ryan?
Good afternoon. Pleasure to be here with all of you in person and virtually today. My name is Ryan Becraft. I am the food service coordinator with EG America. So EG America is a convenience store brand in the U.S. EG America operates in 30 states, over 10 individual banners, about 1,500 and change locations. So primarily, I oversee the Fast Track banner, which is in New York State from Buffalo to Queensbury and Watertown to Binghamton. Not that any of those names might mean anything, but that's the whole state. So I think I lost my train of thought there. So,
How many banners, how many stores?
so we have 10 banners, 1,500 locations, and all operating in just the convenience store operations.
CJ?
Hi guys, I'm CJ. I am the Senior Director for Get Go. Sorry, let's start that over again. I'm CJ, Senior Director for Get Go. Get Go is a convenience chain that offers high quality food, so don't forget about our food when you come in. And we're also a fuel retailer. We operate in Indiana, Ohio and Pennsylvania, West Virginia, and Maryland. As a senior director, I oversee over 100 locations in the Pennsylvania, West Virginia, and Maryland areas. One of the cool things, I've only been with the company for 2 years, so a lot will say that I'm a newbie, and 412 is already in place in the Pittsburgh area. But one of the cool things that I got to do when I joined up was help expand up into the Erie area with our Erie Rescue. Got a lot of understanding, a lot of opportunities to talk about, our challenges that we face and things that we're going to probably talk about here today, and just got to see that program lift up off the ground, which was pretty cool.
That's great, thank you. I think that we can all agree that I think most donors don't inherently understand what it's like to donate food. I always use the analogy, an operator of a restaurant, for example, is trained to bring food in, you prepare it, you sell to your customer, and you make profit, and off you go. When you start saying send it out the back door, they short circuit. They really don't understand what that means because that's not what they're there to do. So it's our job to educate them, okay? So what I'd like to do next is I want each of them to go through again. You now know who they are, what kind of company they've got. And let's talk about what kind of current food donation program you have. Some of them could be great and good, and some may have opportunities, but we're really here just to understand what they're currently doing, and then we'll dig into challenges and good things that are going on with their programs. Because again, part of this is educating you on how to address companies like that when you're going and asking for food, right? So you're gonna start, David?
Yeah, I think for us, it's been a huge benefit because we're obviously partnered up with 412 Food Rescue. And so that's been a great partnership for us as it continued to grow and expand and increase their capabilities, because then it pulled less pressure off of food banks. We have a couple food banks that we have also utilized over the years, but we've been very proud of the success that we've had with the 412 Food Rescue. And the work that they're doing and the message that it sends to our folks about getting the food out to the community has been huge for our employees, right? That there's a purpose behind what we're doing now, that we're just not getting rid of stuff, right? There is a purpose behind that. And we've just been really blessed in this space and been very fortunate with what we've got going on in that area.
CJ? Yes, CJ, go ahead.
Okay, got my mic back up. So what I was going to say is, one of our, core values is do right at GetCo, and it's do right in the community. And sometimes our business model lends itself to be a little challenging to work with, our partners. But we've been very successful with 412, with Hunger Network, with Lake Erie Food Rescue. And the reason being is, I'd say twofold, well, three. Number one, we have space constraints, so we need consistent pickups. Number two, I would say we have order fluctuations. Our donation size fluctuates in size, based on ordering, sales in the store, et cetera. And number three, we have pretty tight turnarounds when it comes to expiration dates. We basically need our food to go from our stores almost directly into the hands of those who need them. And that's why, the current program that we have is actually successful.
Great. Ryan?
So currently, EG America, this is new for EG America. We have a current food rescue program that works through Feeding America. And so of our 1,500 locations, we have roughly 300 on the program. It was a program started with Cumberland Farms, which is primarily a New England company. And when EG bought us up, we inherited it across the country. And so Fast Track came on board. And little did we know, Loaf and Jug out in the far-flung Midwest of Colorado and Wyoming and those other open country states, they had a food rescue program already. So they came in along with us. So as far as constraints, CJ and I are in the same type of business, which is we don't know one day to the next, what that waste is going to look like. So the number of pickups are a serious, serious issue. You know, we would love them, these local agencies, to come 7 days a week. But the reality of it is, most of them are staffed with volunteers, and not very many of them, right? So they might get a 1 day a week pickup, they might get a 2 day a week pickup. And the whole point of what we want to do with this program is to not add any extra labor to our stores. You know, coming from the convenience store, you say the word labor, it's over, right? Everybody stops listening. Can't add any more of that. So we run into problems, right? If an agency is not coming until Friday, that store employee on Monday is like, is this still going to be good? Is this 72 hours? I don't know. And then one of two things happens, right? It either goes in the garbage or goes in the bin, and then the poor agency comes and picks it up. It's bloated and moldy, and our discard becomes their garbage. So yeah, one of our biggest.
I started to itch when you brought up the word labor.
Oh, see, I'm telling you, when you hit operations with labor and they're just like, I didn't even hear what you said for the last 20 minutes, so.
Yeah, I think I would just add on to that. When you think about operations and convenience, there's so many things that are on our team's plates, that it has to be easy, right? It has to be a quick pickup, an easy pickup, quick to manage, for it to be successful.
I think you really hit it on the head, and I think you'll see a lot of head shaking here in a minute. You know, you don't want to pick up their trash either, right? So I think it's in all of our best interest to make sure the program is set up correctly so you don't have the issue, and you don't have that issue, and you're getting reasonably fresh food, you're getting it delivered, and everybody's happy. I think probably one of the important things is, and you can each elaborate on this, is I think it's important that all the nonprofits that they're wanting to pick up food from these donors, that you understand what they're doing, and you just alluded to it. They're really busy. They're there to make a profit and sell their product, and you have to understand that. So be open and flexible as you deal with groups and potential donors to find out what they need from you. And that's the question I'm going to ask you next is I bet they get hundreds of requests a month from different nonprofits across their brands on, can we have your surplus food? Well, they don't know who you are. They don't know what you can do. So you have to be prepared to give them that information, to give them that peace of mind that you can handle food safely. You've got a history doing these kinds of things with other donors. So let's talk about when someone contacts you to pick up your food, what are the first things you think of, good or bad, and how can we look at to see how we address those?
I don't think we typically deal with that as much in distribution, because we have very strict guidelines as to what we can and cannot donate and give out. And we have pretty strict needs for it, because, for us, in order to partner up with someone, they got to be, a nonprofit, obviously, but they also need to have a refrigerated vehicle that can back up to our docks. And because we will load it via pallets, right? We're not going to have people coming in the facility and picking through stuff or whatever. We're going to have stuff pre-wrapped, preloaded. And so for us, it's really about that criteria. Are you capable of coming in with a refrigerated vehicle, pick up at a set time on a regular routine basis before we can even have the conversation? Because as you talked about with labor, right, in distribution, where our facility can kick out anywhere from 98,000 cases a day, stopping to handle a couple hundred cases is not what we're good at, right? So our thing is to get the stuff prepared. We have a routine in there, and so we're a little bit more fortunate, I would say, in that space, that the folks having the capacity to be able to pick the food up, the vehicles they require to be able to use, really limits how many people are asking.
I think that also goes along with manufacturing too. You're not a manufacturer,
Yeah,
you're a
not-
distributor,
yep,
but
yep.
manufacturers are similar in the same way.
Yep.
So just remember, if you don't have, because they all require it, refrigerated trucks to back up and pallet load and that kind of thing, and have to be able to absorb the capacity. I've got a new donor we're working with now in a distribution center, and they're frustrated because the agency comes and takes a third of the stuff and leaves. And now they're sitting there with the rest of it, and they end up trashing it all. So it's our goal is to get them an agency that can take everything every time, and then let them work. And that's why Food Rescue Hero type groups and food runners are good at getting that stuff split up once it's picked up. So, Ryan?
So what we're looking for when we are partnering a new agency, First and foremost, we like to keep it within 10 miles of the donating store is one of our big thing. We want to ensure that not only are we there to serve the community's needs as a convenience store, but we're also there to serve the community's needs for those that need help meeting their needs. So that's number one, 10 miles of the store. We do have rural areas where 10 miles is still just as rural as where the store was, so there's some gray area, not a lot. But the next thing is, and to the point that's been made, is the cherry picking of things. I deal with a lot of communication of there is zero healthy food in this bin. Well, I apologize, but everybody likes Oreos. So it's few and far between, don't get me wrong. But it does happen. And then, the store, there will be stuff left over, right? And then the store manager, the store operations team, tends to get a little jaded, right? Like, we did all this and they left a pile of stuff in there and they didn't even take it. We also look for, to the refrigerated trucks part, some sort of what is your plan to get this out, right? Do you have thermal blankets? Do you have coolers? What is it that you have? So they have to meet standards like that. And we also, we look to see, what they can take. Some of our smaller pantries, they don't have frozen sections. So a lot of that stuff doesn't go. So that's really just back to the cherry picking, not the Oreos thing, but DiGiorno pizza, I guess. Those are probably three of our things that we really look for. First and foremost, just continuing to keep it local. That's number one.
Hey, Ryan, one quick thing
Yeah.
about cherry picking.
Yeah.
Cherry picking is a big deal, I'm telling you, because we get dozens and dozens of calls from across the country about that. The one unseen thing that most of you will not think about if you run into that is most all these donors scan their product out for a tax benefit. If you don't pick it up and it gets thrown in the trash, they're in violation of tax law. That's a big deal. That's a lot bigger than them throwing a few things, the Oreos in the trash can. So it's all of our jobs to keep them compliant with everything. So, and you may say, well, that's really not my problem. Well, it is your problem because they're not going to give food away if we can't help them keep in good graces with the government. So anyway, I'm sorry, CJ, I want to pass that.
Please keep us compliant, please. Similar, we're looking for, rescue partners that have the capacity and the consistency to service our locations. We're looking for the same food safety metrics that they talked about. I would say on a bigger scale, we're also looking to have, mutual beneficial goals together that we can work through. We're looking to have open communication. I want to know the good, the bad, the ugly of the program so that we can address it. And we're looking for, food rescue partners that want more in a holistic way. So you're thinking about volunteerism, you're thinking about infrastructure build, you're thinking about fundraising and advocacy. So, more than just, setting up that one location and running, what does the bigger picture look like so that we can fight against hunger?
We had a quick discussion out front before we met here, and one of the things we talked about was actually in the lunch area about employees, what employees think about throwing food away, okay? I can pretty much tell you the most successful food donation programs are where you guys support the program, your employees are now not being told to throw perfectly good food in the trash. And I always say the comment, I said, how many times have you ever found an employee that loves throwing good food away? Never said, right? And so I think we talked about morale. Can employee morale be improved by not throwing good food away? And I think it shows a lot about your companies when you commit to doing it well. And so all the moving parts have to work. They're going to do it well, put it all out there for you. You got to take it, you got to distribute it. Everybody's happy. But we all have to work within the communication piece to make sure as bumps in the road happen, which they do, you have a volunteer that gets sick, you have a car truck that breaks down. Those things happen. But the key piece here is communication. It's when a store never hears anything and you skip Monday's pickup, so they threw it away. Then Tuesday, they don't show up either. They throw it away. And then all of a sudden, they quit saving food. And then they come back and say, oh, we're sorry we missed those 2 days. Well, the damage is kind of done. So it's in all of our bench. I think you said the good and bad, tell us the good and the bad. If you can't pick up, at least tell them that. At least you're thinking about not being there, and they know you're going to come back the next day. So communication is huge when it comes to picking up donated food. And it's
Yeah.
not a perfect science, and we understand that.
I would say managing the boots on the ground relationships is probably one of the biggest pain points. That pickup that wasn't picked up, that poor interaction between a store team member and a volunteer, right? That's one of our pain points that we have to deal with on a daily basis because we're dealing with people and emotions and interactions, and sometimes it's not as consistent as we'd like it to be.
Ryan, any serious pain points that you can address?
No, just to add to what's already been said, no, absolutely, communication is key. We onboarded a store earlier this year, and they were saving, and the agency was not coming when they said they were coming. So to your point, it happened several times in a row, and then a couple of things happened. One, back to the labor aspect, the store has already scanned it. It's out of sight, out of mind. So it's just staying in there, right? So by the time that agency comes to pick it up, there hasn't been any new food added to it because they haven't come. So obviously the program's just not going to work. But then they do come, and it's January 20th, and all of that stuff out-of-coded January 5th. And then the emails start flying. Hey, we're getting bad food. Well, hey, you were supposed to be there January 5th. So the communication, and it's just that 2 weeks of silence, and you think everything's going good, right? And then you find out it's not. So communication can't be overstated. There are bumps in the road. We understand that it's going to happen. But bumps in the road when you have a blindfold on are terrifying bumps in the road. So that's the whole idea to that.
Yeah, and I would add, like in the distribution space, we have a certain amount that we know is going to be going out, and when we get told, oh, we're only going to be able to pick up 2, right, or 4 pallets or something of that nature. Well, now we've got to figure out, will the product last for the next one, or do we need to reach out and see if we can get someone else? Because it can back up fast. And when they talk about space, I'm a little more fortunate with a big distribution center, but we're still going to get backed up. And the other piece of it is rising up when the need is even greater. So if we have a weather event that prevents sales, and now we have more that we have to get out, and we want to get it out, we need that extra help, right? And fortunately for us, we have a few that we can call and knock on doors and hope that we get them in there. But we really want that additional when the time comes. So we have to be just as good stewards in that communication as well, right? To say, hey, we got an increase. I do want to jump back and touch on one thing that was said earlier about the employees don't like to see good food get thrown away. We've really worked hard at increasing our diversity in our facility and across our organization. And it's astonishing some of the cultures and how folks react to it. We Americans, we all know that we tend to be a little more throwaway society. As we bring on more diverse folks, it really becomes a heartbreak for them as they see some of that. And so our employees take a lot of pride in some of this stuff. And it's kind of painful when we find out, hey, we can't make a pickup or we can't get something out. What can we do to get there? It is a huge morale boost. And then I would throw on top of it that as you partner up with some of these, don't be afraid to invite folks to come out sometimes and be a part of this, right? We all see people at National Volunteer Day and they'll go work in the food banks and others, but one of the huge successes that we've had with 412 Food Rescue is our folks that work in what we call our credit returns area. They're the ones that process all the food and donations and things that come back. Our credit return folks hopped on the trailers and went out and did some deliveries. And they were so moved and so touched by the impact that it had. They're trying to figure out how can we do more, right? How can we save this little case? So you get a case that's got a dented can, right? Try to save as much of it as possible. And they know the needs and some of this, like the healthy food. We're fortunate, well, I shouldn't say quite fortunate, because we tend to have issues with more produce, right? It's a dying product from the time it's cut. But that's healthy food that we can get out to the community and That's one of the focuses that we try to do, but we want to get it quick, right? Because we guarantee our customers a certain amount of days of shelf life, and if that product's not going to make it, we pull it, but it's still good product. We want it out there in the community faster. We don't want it sitting on the shelves somewhere else and waiting. And so that communication piece is out there when we have a need, and just being able to say, hey, can you make an extra pickup? It's having good partners that can rise up to the occasion, or put in touch with other ones. So if they know that there's someone else that's in need that might be able to help out, is there a way that they can arrange them to come in and be a part of it, or middleman some of the activities where they pick it up and then that organization comes in and gets it from them?
That's great information. I was sitting here thinking about lack of pickups or missed pickup or whatever, and one of the things I learned a long time ago was, and you all can agree with this, it takes a lot of effort to get a food donation program started with the donor. And it takes this much to stop it. And it takes this much to start it back again, if it'll ever start again. So I don't want anyone to underestimate, and I don't think that you do, but if your convenience store stops saving food because they've missed a week of pickups, it is going to be very difficult to get that store to start doing it again because they're already ticked off. They already have no faith in the process. They already said the program's a failure, right? They always say that. And a lot of it's because they don't want to take the time to do it. But when they see the wheels turning and it working well, employees want to do the right thing. I really believe that. When you go back to communication and people problems, they do happen a lot more than you may think. That communication is critical, not to cripple a program because there's a personnel issue and just a conflict. Some people just don't get along. And sometimes coaching on the volunteers end, just talk to them and explain to them, you can't say no very much, But I think that when the communication's going back and forth, programs tend to thrive. I do believe that. And one other thing too, when you talk about going out to they come to 412 and do that kind of thing, I always encourage donors to send their teams to go like with 412 and take them some of your bigger agencies. I had never been to a nonprofit agency in my career until 19 years ago when I started FDC. Never been a nonprofit. And the first one I went to in downtown Chattanooga was life-changing for me. I had no comprehension of what they got accomplished, how many people they helped. And it makes me want to come every day and knock on your door to try to get you to donate more product. And that's what you all are wanting to do, is get more product. Do you have any advice on ways, not necessarily with your company, that the people watching, where they should be looking for opportunities? A lot of the mom and pop groceries or restaurants, all those are kind of fair game. But are there any other places you could encourage them in your communities that you may think there are opportunities to get food?
I'm going to not go first.
Yeah, that's a challenging one because I think you hit the ones on the head, right? The stores, the restaurants, the distribution centers. A lot of the other ones have managed programs. So, when you look at schools and hospitals and, some of those, they have a managed program. So they're pretty much, they know how many folks they got and they know what they can cycle through. They're pretty good in that space. But, don't be afraid to look at, some of them to say, hey, is there any, folks that you know of that need help in getting some of the stuff out of there? There are organizations that don't know anything about food donation, right? There's a lot of them out there that don't know about what they can give back and the communities that they can partner up with. Now, we can partner up with people that can help in the donation space and, from a funding or advertising. We have some great partners here in Pittsburgh that work great with 412 Food Rescue that are in do business with us. And that's exciting, but things like camps and schools as they're winding down, some of those organizations may have some opportunities to can reach out and help out. Caterers and things of that nature that you just don't seem to, it always doesn't run in your mind, but you get a caterer that has a meal plan for a whole lot of people, and when they get done, they have leftovers and trays that they haven't opened or exposed. So don't be afraid to look at those folks and those individuals as well.
Ryan? CJ, you're coming next.
I'm thinking hard.
So You know, I would say, I think convenience stores in general are an underserved with food donation. You know, prior to E.G. America putting us under their umbrella of 30 states and 1,500 stores, Fast Track was a 54-store chain, and we didn't donate anything. You know, we didn't, and we had it to donate. And the thing about the convenience store, and it's what I hear all the time, and is we never knew we would get this variety from you. And we always tell the agencies, we can never promise you what you're going to get. We just promise you you're going to get something. One of the things that sticks out in my mind is we actually had an agency in Pittsfield, Massachusetts, who was getting so much pastry items, you know, apple fritters and donuts and muffins and things like that, that they actually started a community coffee and pastry day. I think it was one Saturday a month, 2 Saturdays a month. But the entire community could get together, whether they needed the free pastry and coffee or not. So it was all walks of life together enjoying. And that's, you know, is that what you're going to get from the big box stores? I'm not sure. We're not a big box store, so I can't answer that question. But I can say that we offer this variety. And I'm not sure that there are a lot of smaller chains left anymore in the U.S. There are.
In Pittsburgh.
There are in Pittsburgh. All right. This is my first time to Pittsburgh. So, yeah, I think it's just kind of an overlooked thing. You know, there are still those 20 and 30. You know, they're not exactly mom and pop, but they're not exactly Circle K. So they fall right in the middle, and they've got the food they're throwing away, the 54 stores in Fast Track, who were throwing away, you know, hundreds of, you know, thousands of pounds of food annually. And we just added to the 70 billion pounds going into landfills a year, and I wish we would have known about it.
So I'm convenience at heart. So I think about like all natural gas station, right? There's like 6 of them. Are they on a program? I may not be able to tell you where to go, but what I can tell you is take all your no's that you're going to get and go after that one yes. That's the most important thing. There's a message right for you. There you go. So, you know, that's what we talk about with, you know, any sales-driven, any initiative that you're going after. You know, the one thing is it's easy to sometimes get deflated. And if you take that no and take it to heart and don't normalize it and move forward from it, you're not going to be successful. So I wish you guys all the best of luck.
I think that's great. You know, I think we were talking, you and I were talking, CJ, earlier about, you know, 10 years ago, convenience stores were a totally different model. They didn't know what fresh food was. And now
We're learning.
You're learning a lot. I mean, now they've got kitchens, full kitchens in them. There's one in Chattanooga where I live, and my wife says they got the best chicken tenders on the planet. Weigel's, his convenience store, 80-store chain that we're starting to work with, but and that outranks Chick-fil-A for her, which is a pretty big deal. So a lot of these convenience stores, and there are lots of small, medium-sized ones out there, you're right, across the country, and I think they're now starting to learn they have more fresh food that they could donate versus 10 years ago when it was packaged pastries and stuff. And, you know, with your comment about you only had pastries this day to pick up, that's always a huge topic for everybody. And, you know, I had somebody complain about that to me just recently, and I said, you know, unfortunately, you don't plan surplus food. Surplus is surplus. All I can do is make sure that the donors are donating every possible thing they can, not just the easy pastries, right? So I had a chicken wing place call me one day and say, can we donate our food? And I was like, great. And I said, what do you have? I said, we have the heels of the loaves for the Texas toast. And I said, so how much do you have? And she said, we have about 400 ends. And I said, well, no, that won't happen. And she was very upset. And I said, so do you ever have any chicken? And she says, oh, we got 5-gallon buckets that we do it the wrong sauce. I said, well, what about donating that? And he said, oh, that's too hard. I can't fix that. You know, so we do need to make it easy, make it painless, get them good data or information if you need that back from the agencies. I'm trying to look and see what time we got. It's 10:35. I've got 15 minutes. Can we turn this, Jen, can we get a microphone out and take a few questions? Not mine.
All right, so questions from the crowd. I know you got them. All right, right back there. Yeah, it's all right.
All right, I know a couple of you, but hi, I'm Becca. I'm the food donor manager at 412 Food Rescue. And one of the biggest challenges that we face is staff turnover at a lot of our donor locations, and that's when we start to see a lot of fall off. So what advice do you guys have on like maintaining communication with that store? What are the best ways to like maintain the procedure that we already have?
So are you saying that your stores, how do we manage a piece of this? No, I'm just kidding. Staffing is obviously an issue across the board. It's really become the bigger issue, like issues here. It's really become a nationwide issue, right? If you look at staffing levels across and unemployment rates, all the other stuff, and it's been challenging. And I wish we had the silver bullet to be able to say this is what works, because especially since the pandemic, it's been even more challenging to have consistency. I would say more than anything else. And so really, I would just encourage in your world, especially with 412, because again, that's where a lot of mine they get to deal with, and a huge advantage is how much they give to communities. Those folks still believe in that stuff, right? The individuals. And so as we continue to promote that and encourage that, but don't be afraid to advertise it. I mean, that's going to be one of the bigger challenges to come across. But I wish I had a silver bullet, because I'm still hiring and still need employees, but we understand that staffing is always a challenge, and communicating and making sure we're aware of it. But there's less options, right? Unfortunately, but the more the merrier that we can get out there and help it be fast and efficient, right? Like one of the things that I got a chance to do with is work with 412 Food Rescue and understand when they get the product how they depalletize it. And how do they kind of judge, what areas in there? Well, is that something that we could come alongside and support and try to analyze? Could we build our pallets of donations in a manner that works best for you guys and makes your labor more efficient? Because that's really what it's about, is trying to be efficient.
I don't think I can add anything to that.
I would just add, number one, building the relationship is super important. So with that store leader or whoever the captain is going to be, getting in really tight with them, exchanging phone numbers, being able to text and say, hey, listen, we're going to come tomorrow. We can't come today. And they'll text back and say, hey, no problem. I'll let you know. I'll tell you in certain areas we're battling staffing too. I know you guys feel it when you guys walk into our locations and we tell you you have to wait a couple of minutes before we can help you out. So we get it, and I think just communicating on it is the best way to go.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. I think that in our side of what we do, we get a lot of, we'll have 412 contact us and say we got a problem at store X. Well, we do a lot of data diving in all the data that we collect from our donors, and we're always looking for gaps. And so a lot of times, we may not hear from you that there's a problem, but we'll see it in the data. It'll drop or disappear. And we will turn around and contact our donor and say, look, here's some locations we think there could be an issue, and let's see if we can try to motivate them. So again, common thing is communication. We have to be talking to each other to realize there's a problem, or problems just get worse. Another question?
I have one from the online folks, which I've now lost. So give me a second. Here we go. And I can't see because I'm old and blind. It's a challenge for rescue organizations to fundraise for the kind of hard infrastructure that you talk about. Do your organizations help nonprofits gain access to refrigerated trucks and cold storage? Or I would add funding.
Yeah, I can share that years ago, when we started up with 412 Food Rescue, and we had a facility, then we had box trucks, and that was
Hold higher on the mic.
a little higher up on the mic. So, there are opportunities. I would say that I wouldn't say we're always really good at it, and I wish we could improve a little bit more on there. We do partner up with organizations to help with funding. I think that, I don't want to speak for other organizations, but there's some that we talked to. We were doing a kitchen visit with a customer, and that customer was quite familiar with 412 Food Rescue, and they brought it up during their meal. And it was nice to be able to tap them on the shoulder and say, just so you know, we partnered up with them, right? And help encourage that growth in that community work. And then look for the local agencies around you that can help out, that you partner up with, to say, hey, we're looking to do an event or something, would you sponsor, and could help with that. I mean, I can think of a time where we were doing a food show, and I got pictures of it from back in the day where we invited 412 Food Rescue and gave them the booth for free and said, here, you can set up. And then in the end, we want you to take all the food that was left over from the food shows, and partnered up with that. And so, yeah, we do some funding with it. I wish we always could do more, but at the end of the day, it's really about, partnering and promoting. And when organizations hear us doing that work, they start getting on board with it too, because I know there's other organizations that help 412 out.
I have to ashamedly admit, no, we do not assist financially in the fundraising aspect with the local agencies. I wish we did. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that.
I think you are.
Sometimes I think that we just get too comfortable thinking that, do we have to do more? We're already giving them our food. But to CJ's point, when they want to know what their long-term goal is, their outreach goal is, how can we help them with that? So yeah, short answer is unfortunately we don't. But God, I wish we did.
I think there could be an option that we can discuss later, but
All right.
But in seriousness, it's not always about you necessarily having to give the money, but you got the name recognition and the marketing ability to maybe promote a fundraiser type thing where the nonprofit serving your stores could raise money, or do a cash register thing where the customers are paying that fundraising thing.
So I will say, I will have let me give an unabashful plug. Now, we actually did partner with Feeding New York with some of our local agencies as far as allowing them some, that's a terrible word, permitting, whatever word we want to use, just insert word here, Mad Lib, right? We put up some tent signs in stores that were participating, QR codes that were scannable for our customers to assist in that way. So thank you for jogging my memory on that. But yeah, no, absolutely, that's a great point, and we can all do that. Just be that bastion that people are coming to every day, right? They're coming in to buy their gas and their cigarettes and their breakfast sandwiches or whatever it is they're buying. Let them help out even more. So just be that portal to assist these agencies.
So I'm going to say, I had, for those of you who don't know Melinda, Melinda has volunteered me to be up on the panel today. She's kind of our guru and our, leader in this area. And you heard earlier that I brought up infrastructure build. And I'll tell you that was directly, from Melinda and that conversation. So am I aware of anything that we have right now in play? No. But I can say that knowing Melinda and talking about infrastructure build and throwing it in as something that she's looking to do with future partners and grow past, food rescue, I think there's definitely opportunities in the future.
I think that a lot of the donors that are out there don't think about it. They're busy doing their regular business. But I think they're starting to see the value of the network behind doing the back of the house kind of stuff. I know we have a large donor that back when COVID hit called me and said, back in like March of 20, and said, what can we do to help our agencies? And it's the first time they ever said that. And they said, can we get, they're plowing produce under in the day, and they, can we get produce delivered right to them? And I said, how long could COVID really last, right? I said, let's think beyond COVID. And they said, well, what would that look like? I said, why don't you give away refrigerated vans? The next day, they came back and said, we have $1.2 million. We can do 30 vans. Who gets them? And now it's about to grow to 100 vans nationally. So, and now they're doing grants for agencies picking up their stores. So with our donors, I'm really encouraging them, if you have monetary assistance out there, look at who's supporting your stores every day first. I think you all would like that, and I think it's the right thing to do. I know a lot of grocery stores and stuff do a percentage, for local charity. And every time I saw that, it was never for a charity that picks up their stores. And unfortunately, sitting at the table and complained about it one time when I read it on Twitter, and the lady said, from this big donor, said, well, that's my program. I said, shame on you. You all commit resources every day. It costs you all money to do this work. So I think we all continue to encourage, I encourage with all our donors, what can you do to support financially, whether it's grants, funding, a van, pay for pouches, I don't care what it is. But we have to keep that in front of them, because if not, they're not just going to naturally wake up one day and say, what can we do for these agencies? I'm sure they need something. Heck yeah, you all need something. You need something every day. So I think that's part of it is, it's a long process, but we have to go through the process. You guys are doing great work. I appreciate all the work you've done. I think we're getting pretty close. You have time for one more?
Yeah, we have time for one more
quick one.
question. Is there one in the room? Because I have one if nobody else does, but I would love to have you ask it. What?
Look at that. We did such a great job. No questions.
Everything's answered.
So my question returns to communication. And food rescues, each food rescue is unique, All the people involved in the chain, in the case of the Food Rescue Hero technology, it's oftentimes volunteers. Sometimes if it's fleet, it is the same person every week. But sometimes that changes, and your staffing also changes. So the communication, there's a whole spectrum of people that it goes through. And so this question is twofold. One, what can food rescue organizations do to best educate, help you educate the folks involved, the boots on the ground folks, for the day-to-day things, and kind of set their expectations? And then the bigger thing is kind of we building the platform can do things to help communicate within the platform, across volunteers, across donors, those kinds of things. In an ideal world, what would you like to see in terms of those in-platform communications for the higher-ups, but also, would you have any kinds of expectations of the day-to-day staff interacting with the platform directly?
So one thing I'll say is, when I was here earlier, the first thing I said was, I don't think we do a really great job of storytelling, with our teams, for them to understand, the impact. I don't think we do a good job of, I think from a higher level, we do a good job of crossing over. We have monthly meetings, to talk about hot topics, talk about trends. There's, monthly reporting that goes out. But I think we need to get better at trickling that down. I would say if it was me trying to develop a relationship with, a couple of my stores that I have under me, connect with me. I'll get you in touch with the district leader. They can have you join a call and introduce yourself, to the, store teams. We can give you the store email that goes to just the store leadership. So to your point, if leaders change, you can just send an email to the store leadership team and know that whoever's the current leader is going to be getting that email, and just have more communication store level to volunteers.
One thing I'll add to that is, even talking on a day-to-day interaction, I kind of got that from you. What about a digital business card on the app? Well, especially if you have the regular person picking up the same store every day, and all of a sudden they have to change. They stop or whatever. We have it happen a lot of times where a new volunteer goes and the store says, you're not John. And they have no way to prove that they're the representative of 412 Food Rescue in this case, that they're supposed to be there picking that up. So we actually produce name badges for our agencies to show when they go pick up at Wawa's and other things. So, yeah, something like that.
So I would add to that, I think just more communication just because from the local agencies. You know, we get the communication when something's wrong. We get the communication maybe from time to time that a pickup's not going to happen, but just staying engaged with the donor, just checking in, right? Like you call your best friend just to check in, not just when you need to pick up your Christmas presents, right? So I think coming to more than just communication at pickup time or just communication when there's a problem, but communication just because. How's everything going? You know, what's happening? Is everything good? You know, let's talk. Let's, you know, make sure that we're all still on the same page. You know, especially in the C-store industry, 150% turnover is not out of the realm of possibility. Lately, you know, 200% turnover. You know, you turn over entire staffs 2 times a year. You know, I get lists of our store manager turnover, and I'm scrolling it like I'm trying to find my birth year now, like to get to the bottom of it. And so just the communication, just because, not just because there's something wrong, I think is a huge thing.
That's great. Well, listen, we are now at time. I'd like to thank CJ, Ryan, and David for joining us on this panel. Hopefully you learned something, picked up some tidbits of information. Certainly let us know if you need to communicate with us, if we can help you with anything else. Thank the virtual crowd, thank the local crowd. Have a great day.